We read the pasuk, the second pasuk in the parsha about Bikurim. From where did the Bikurim come? Eretz Yisrael there were two parts to Eretz Yisrael. There was the Eretz Yisrael proper, and then we had the Eretz Yisrael. This was the location that after they had destroyed Og and Sichon, and they had conquered the Transjordan side, Reuven and Gad, because they had an enormous amount of flocks and herds, they said, we'd like to remain here. Because there were tremendous grazing fields and land over there for their flocks and their herds. So Moshe Rabbeinu initially thought they weren't interested in crossing the Jordan. And then they said, no, we're willing to cross and fight with our brothers, and will remain not only till we conquer, but even till it's divided. And they stayed for 14 years, and then we will return. So Moshe Rabbeinu consults with Hashem, and it's agreed upon that if they meet their agreement, the Transjordan side belongs to Reuven and Gad, and Chatzi Shevet Menashe. Half Shevet Menashe was put there also on the Transjordan side. And we find, in terms of the cities of refuge, there were 3 cities of refuge in Eretz Yisrael, and there were 3 cities of refuge on the Transjordan side. If somebody would kill inadvertently, he'd have to flee to the city of refuge. So seemingly, the Eretz Yisrael has the same status as Eretz Yisrael itself, as Eretz Yisrael proper. Now the question is regarding Bikurim. One brings the first of the ripened fruits, the 7 species of Eretz Yisrael. From where? From the land which Hashem has given you. That's where you bring the Bikurim. So there's an opinion which is cited in the Yalkut, Rabbi Yossi says no, that you bring Bikurim from the land that Hashem has given you, but not from the land that you took yourself. That since they are the ones who initiated it, therefore you don't bring Bikurim from there. So the difficulty is, I mean, we have over here that in addition to bringing the Bikurim, the new fruits, you must make a declaration. As we discussed today, we recount all that Hashem has done for us from the time that Lavan had pursued Yaakov and wanted to kill him, and despite that, due to Hashem's intervention, he was saved. His family was there. We went to Egypt. We had left Egypt, so we conquered the land, and this is the fruit of the land that you have given us. So Eretz Yisrael, Hashem didn't give it; they took it themselves. This is an expression of appreciation. If Hashem wouldn't have allowed them to remain on the Eretz Yisrael side, they wouldn't have remained there. So ultimately, Eretz Yisrael does have the status of Eretz Yisrael. And the reason why we're there and why it has those laws is because Hashem agreed that they could remain there as long as they meet the agreement that they go cross with their brothers and they conquer Eretz Yisrael proper. They took it themselves because they initiated it. If they wouldn't have asked for it, they wouldn't have had it. So because they initiated it, therefore, one doesn't bring the Bikurim from that location, and there's no expression of thank you, appreciation. Why not? So what I said years ago, which we say differently today, that why is it so difficult for a person to be appreciative? Why? Appreciation is very difficult. You say people have, as we said, what's the difference between an ingrate and a person who's not appreciative? A person not appreciative, in Hebrew, the word appreciation is makir tova. If you recognize that you're a beneficiary, then the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a human being, you naturally reciprocate, or you express that you're a beneficiary of that person's kindness, goodness. You have to be makir tova, you have to recognize it. So why are so many people not appreciative? Why are they not makir tova? Because they're not makir tova because they don't see themselves to be such beneficiaries of whatever takes place. Why aren't they? So we explained in the past, Shlomo tells us in Mishlei, Eved lo v'lishmalveh, that a person who's a debtor, he's the equivalent of an Eved. You're indebted. There's an indebtedness payment of debt. A debtor is like a slave. You're indebted to whatever may be. A human being doesn't want to be burdened with debt. We don't want to be indebted. So whatever way we could see it, that we're not beneficiaries, we somehow evade that reality that we're not, or we minimize it. We minimize the degree that we're beneficiaries. And if it's minimized, the degree of appreciation is minimized to that degree also. But if you fully see that you're the full beneficiary of that other person's goodness, then you reciprocate fully, then you're fully appreciative. So it's all based on to what degree do you recognize that you're a beneficiary? And since being the beneficiary, the greater makes you a greater debtor, a person doesn't want to be a debtor. Now, we see how difficult it is to be makatova. We say that by Adam Rishon, he was called the Kofi Tova. He was an ingrate. Here Hashem gives him a wife, creates a wife for him to be his partner, to be his helpmate, that he should focus on whatever he has to focus. And when he fails, who does he blame? He blames Hashem. It's the woman you gave me. She's the one. So therefore, it's your fault. Rather than being appreciative to understand what the value was, you turn the table, you turn it backwards, upside down, and all of a sudden Hashem is the one who's blamed for this. But if you realize to what degree you're indebted, you'd hang your head in shame. But since a person doesn't want to be the guilty party, or doesn't want to be tied into this, he evades it. Now, so we see that it's not simple to be a makatova because of the consequence of that. It's true, if Hashem wouldn't have endorsed it, they wouldn't have remained on the Transjordan side. But if we wouldn't have asked, would we have it? We wouldn't have had it. So since there's this degree of wiggle room, Hashem doesn't obligate you to break it. This is the only obligation that a person has to be makatova. We always say that showing signs of appreciation is a positive quality. Here Hashem says, we're not talking about positive quality, that you have an obligation. I brought to the land, every year you must bring the 7 species, the first of the ripened species as a gift, to express your appreciation. You like it or you don't like it, that's what you have to do. You have to recognize what you have is because I gave it to you. That's an obligation. To obligate them on the Transjordan side, where over there they could sideswipe it, they could evade it by saying, but if we wouldn't have asked, would we have had it? We wouldn't have. Hashem doesn't burden them with that obligation. That's the way I explained it in the past. The Gemara tells us that we have this, that every year one's yearly stipend, financial stipend, is sent from Rosh Hashanah for the year. Now, however, the Ramchal writes, the Mesilas Yesharim writes that as a result of eating the Eitz Hadas, the curse that was given to Adam was, you will eat bread by the sweat of your brow. Meaning, it's true, you have whatever the yearly stipend is, it's waiting for you to take. However, to be able to extract it, to draw on it, you have to take initiative. Why do you have to take initiative? Because the curse to mankind was, by the sweat of your brow, you should eat bread. So you have to meet that prerequisite by the sweat of your brow. This is the Ramchal. You meet that prerequisite, it's by your sweat of your brow, then you get what's meant to be yours. If not, that's why you have to take initiative. That's how the Mesilas Yesharim explains why you have to take initiative to receive what's rightfully yours, which was designated for you. Okay? So I always say, everybody has a different degree of sweat of your brow. Let's say Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, where every minute of his life he invested fully in serving Hashem. But factually, to be able to cover your financial base in Torah, you have to take initiative. What was his initiative? His initiative was once a year, he would buy the Austrian sweepstake And somehow, after that, somehow it worked out that whatever was meant to, what his needs were, they were covered financially. That was his. Now he didn't necessarily. He didn't have to win the sweepstake, the Austrian sweepstake. Didn't have to, but that was his initiative. Why? Because for Rabbi Soslat, even to go to buy the ticket, to take out time from his Torah, for that, that's by the sweat of his brow. Another person who spends 2 days a week on the golf green, what's the sweat of his brow? He has to really work, become maybe a workaholic. He has to put endless hours into a project to be able to extract what he needs. What's the understanding? So I say like this: person has an inheritance. It's in Australia. You live in New York City. So to get it from Australia to New York City, it's not so simple. You have to bring it over. So let's say a person is a Talmud Chacham, invests every minute in serving Hashem. That means he has to take out time to deal with bringing it from this long distance to New York. Hashem says, you know something, do I want you to waste your time? Every minute you waste your time, you're paying because I understand exactly what you want. You know something? I'll bring it to you. Just take a minimum degree of initiative. Another person who spends all day, wastes his time and doing other things. Hashem says, you want it? Go to Australia, bring it yourself. You know, I'm not your lackey. I'm not bringing it from Australia. You have to take the initiative yourself to bring it. So I always say, you go to a tzaddik, to a Talmud Chacham, and you say, do you want to participate to support a certain Torah course or mitzvah course? He says, of course. But he says, you know, we needed a very significant amount of money, and the tzaddik has the money. He says, of course I'll do it. You go to another person, and he says, you know something? You know what my fortune cost me? I haven't seen my children until I made partner. And you know when that was? After my kids graduated college. So my success cost me, my family is the cost of my success. That's what it cost me. So you say to the person, I understand, but there's a mitzvah to give charity and to support them. But you realize God gave it. The person says, God gave it to me. This success cost me a pound of flesh. That's what it cost me. That's my investment. So the tzaddik, he sees it. He's done nothing. He's done nothing, and yet he has whatever he needs. So of course he gives it away. Because he understands it was given to him to do what he's supposed to do. The other person, he had to, as I said, he had to work day and night to create that success. So it cost him his whole life. Person doesn't give it away so soon. Doesn't give it away. As a result of that, two people, they see through different lenses because each one experiences his own experience in terms of what is needed for initiative to bring it about. So the person who has to give up his family to bring it about. That's it's myself, it's my ability, it's my investment. That's how it's come about. The tzaddik is not even consideration. He always sees it. It's a gift of Hashem. It's a gift. You know, every day we say Modim. We give thanks to Hashem for what? One of the things we say is Al Nisecha Shebchol Yomim Hanu. The miracles that you perform for us every single day. So Ernie, when was the last time you experienced a miracle? Al Nisecha Shebchol Yomim Hanu. The miracles every day. See, you'd say the miracles because we don't even realize what miracles they. Something could have happened, it didn't happen. Hashem avoided it. Those are the miracles. We're not aware. But certain people, they see miracles. Because since they're always involved in a certain situation, all of a sudden things happen. And they see it away. Why did it happen? Because Hashem is there causing it to happen. The tzaddik, he sees miracles continuously. And they are miracles. You take a slight degree of initiative, all of a sudden you have success. You have to make a plane, and you're late, and all of a sudden the plane is delayed, and you're able to get on that plane. You don't understand. It was only delayed because you had to get on that plane. That's why it was delayed. So Hashem caused it. You have to be worthy. That's the sechel. So who sees the miracle? The one who sees the miracle is that person who lives his life a certain way. The other person never sees it, he just glosses over everything. So that's the way I explain why Eber Yarden, the produce made of Yarden, does not have to be Bikurim, because they say they took it themselves. If we wouldn't have taken the initiative, we wouldn't have had it. Eretz Yisrael has nothing to do with initiative. Hashem says, go in, open the door, it's yours. That's it. That's Eretz Hashem Nesata one. This is the land you gave us. That's the way I explained it until now. Adam was created by God, handiwork of God. He saw from one end of the world to the other. God says you can eat any fruit in the garden is yours, except one. Just one don't. When you say don't, I mean, Adam has the characteristics of a creator. He's the closest thing to God. The Malachim had mistaken his radiance for God's radiance. That was his ability. And all of a sudden you tell him something, you can't. There's an innate characteristic in a human being. We want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. That's what we want to do. All of a sudden God puts this cap on. Everything you could do, but that but for Adam was too much. That was a challenge. That but. That's another reason why. When you're obligated to do something, that's when you don't want to do it. It should be my initiative. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. It's up to me what to do. Once you tell me something, that means you're dictating. A human being doesn't want to be dictated to. That's the concept of being a debtor.
Whether it be a financial.
Ilamdenu Rabbeinu, Kama Matonos Nivrubolim, the many gifts that God created in the world. Tasharim said, Sholosh Matonos Baruch HaKadosh Bolam, the three gifts that God created for mankind: Chochmah, wisdom; Gvura, physical power; V'osher, wealth. Zocha Adam Le'echad Man, if a person even merits to have one of them, Notel Chendas Kolam, you've taken what's most precious in the world. Zocha B'Chochmah, if you merit to have wisdom, Zocha B'Kol, you have everything. Zocha B'Gvura, if you merit to have physical strength, power, Zocha B'Kol, also. Zocha B'Osher, Zocha B'Kol, a Mosai, now this is it. When is it considered when you have this, you have everything? Bizman Shei Matona Shamayim, when it's a gift of heaven, Ubos Mikoch HaGvura Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's solely because God gave it to you. But the physical power of a human being and the wealth of a person, we'll see in a moment, which the human being creates, that's what means nothing. Means nothing. Why? Shlomo tells us in Koheles, Shavti v'rob tachsa shomayim shemesh kilo lakalim meilutz. Because of what he's seen, which exists in this world, that swiftness is not a person who could easily run. And the one who's most powerful doesn't necessarily have victory. And the person who has great intelligence, wisdom, doesn't necessarily have what to eat. And the one who has insight doesn't necessarily have wealth. Yirmiyah Novi, we say this on Tisha B'Av. Al Yisal Chochem B'Chochmoso. A wise man should not pride himself in his wisdom. Al Yisal Gibur Guroso. A strong man should not pride himself in his strength. Al Yisal Osher B'Oshero. Ki Bezos Yisal Misaleo. What should a person pride himself in? Haskel V'Nosi. When he understands and knows who I am, he knows where it all comes from. Umatonos Elu, these gifts, if they're not from God, if you don't recognize they're from Hashem, ultimately they're going to come to an end. There were two great wise men who existed. One was a Jew, one was a Gentile. Achitophel, he's the one who advised Avshalom how to exactly kill his father, David. Bilam, without as a prophet, as a wise man, he had tremendous wisdom. Bilam, Shneim Avdu Min Olam. Both of them were lost from this existence. They had no share in this world, no share in, because actually the lives were ended at a certain time as they were ended. Shnei Giborim Avdu Olam. There were two superhuman strength. One was a Jew, one was a Gentile. Shimshon Yisrael, Shimshon, Samson, the Goliath, Goliath. Shneim Avdu Min Olam. They both were destroyed. Shnei Hashim Avdu Olam. Echad Yisrael, Echad Olam. Korach Yisrael. Korach was the wealthiest Jew who ever lived in the history of existence. The Haman Olam. Haman was the wealthiest commoner among Gentiles who ever lived. They both were destroyed from the world. Lama, why? It wasn't the gift of God, but they grabbed it for themselves. They took it for themselves. Rather than recognizing that what they had was God-given, they took it for themselves and they attribute everything to themselves. And they did the same thing. Listen, Ashirim Harbe, they were very wealthy. They had tremendous wealth and they esteemed and they revered their money. And they preferred to stay outside Israel proper. Therefore, when they were exiled by the 10 tribes, when they were exiled, the first tribes to be exiled was Reuven and Gad. Why were they exiled first? Because they separated themselves from their brothers. Here you could live among other Jews, and you chose to live elsewhere. Why? Because financially, it's in your best interest. So what was your priority? Not to be with your brothers, to have that level of influence, but your money, your wealth dictated where you should be. Because it says, what drove them? Because they had this enormous wealth. People go live overseas, and somehow they say, well, we'll work it out. We'll have a share on the phone, we'll have whatever it is, we have a computer, you understand? Whatever you want to say, it's not the same as being on site. On site, it's a whole different reality. So why does the person be? For financial reasons, you do that. And you'll justify it in every sensitive way. But it's not justifiable. Because ultimately, who gives the gift? The gift is the gift of God. You recognize the same, you can give it to anywhere, wherever you are. So to go and sacrifice your spirituality for that means you grabbed it. You're grabbing it for yourself. You're not using it as it was meant to be used. That's exactly why you don't bring Bikurim from the Eretz Yisrael, because they took it themselves. It's not because it's so difficult to be appreciative, because this is not a true gift. Since the priority was the wealth, ultimately this is not going to last. There's a question in Gemara. There's a question in Gemara. A person finds something, which is very valuable. What do you say? You say Shechianu. A person's ship, his cargo ship goes down at sea, tremendous financial loss, a person is dying emes. It's not only when a person dies, do you say dying emes? Something which really affects a person's life very negatively, you say a person says dying emes. Something which is positive, you say shechionu. Somebody has a question like this: you can find the treasure, and when you find it, it has enormous value. But if the king finds out that you found that treasure and you did not give it over to him, you're going to the gallows. So initially, it's tremendous, but ultimately, if you keep it or you retain it, it has a negative side. Do you say shechion or don't you say shechion? Because in a certain sense, you have tremendous joy. You understand? This is only a gift if you take it in the right context. Since they grabbed it, this gift is not meant to be theirs, and therefore they're going to be the first ones to be exiled. Because the priority was this. When the priority is the wealth, rather than God being the priority, and the wealth is a means to an end, but rather an end unto itself, that you don't say thank you. Because that's the greatest entrapment that you could have in your life. They found a study, people win the lotteries, tremendous lotteries. The level of aggravation they have, within a short period of time, they lose everything. Not only did they lose everything, they created problems due to that wealth that they wish they never originally had that wealth. So wealth could be a curse if you don't utilize it correctly, but not utilize it because you don't see exactly its value and what it's meant to be used for. Therefore, one doesn't bring Bikurim from Eretz Yisrael. The fruit to the Kohen, to the Temple Mount. The Kohen will take this basket from your hands, v'nicho l'fnei mizbeach Hashem Elokecho, and he will place it before the mizbeach. V'anisa v'amarto, and you will respond and say, l'fnei Hashem Elokecho. Now you begin recounting all the moments that we were beneficiaries of Hashem's accommodation. Now Rashi's, what's v'anisa v'amarto? V'anisa loshna ramus kol. You have to say this out loud. It's not enough to say it in a whisper. You have to say this out loud. When you respond, you're responding to another person, he has to be able to hear you. In a whisper, he can't hear you. You have to say, when you express your thankfulness, you have to almost like scream it. Sometimes for things to penetrate your brain or your emotion, I always say over from Yisrael Salanter, what is the closest distance in existence? One of the closest, but yet it's the furthest in all existence, from the brain to the heart. Well, we understand to get it into the heart that we should totally integrate it and internalize it. It's the most difficult thing. Although we understand, but it should be internalized to the degree that that's the way we function. It's like moving mountains. That's what it is. So sometimes you have to, when you express it, it's not to say in a whisper. You have to be fully invested in whatever you're saying. Therefore, you have to say it out loud. And we'll see later. After you finish saying the declaration in Pasuk Yud, after you finish saying it, now I am bringing to you the first of the fruits which you've given me. And after you say it all, you prostrate yourself in the sanctuary. You prostrate yourself. After you prostrate yourself, now you will be able to rejoice in all the good that Hashem has given to you. Now you'll be able to. What's the whole idea of Ishtachar Bisa? After you make the declaration, after you articulate it, and you said it out loud, it's not enough. Now you must prostrate yourself. What is the concept of prostration? Prostration doesn't mean bowing at the waist or bowing at the neck. It means full prostration. You totally sprawled out on the ground. What are you saying? My value is no more than the dust of the earth in your presence. It's a total negation of who you are. Why do people feel certain things are not sufficient? If God chose to give you this, you should be satisfied. Why aren't you satisfied? Because in terms of what I understand, what I need, and what I'm deserving of, I think I deserve more. What about if you have a sense you're deserving of nothing? That you've overdrawn the account endless times over? Do you feel entitled? There's no entitlement. Entitlement is based upon what you feel about yourself. After expressing all the reasons why you have to be appreciative, whatever you have, it's God-given. Still, it's not enough. Of course, you still have that sense of self. Now you must prostrate yourself. It's a total negation of who you are. You have no entitlement. Now that you have no entitlement, what is the next supposed to say? Now, whatever God gives to you, you be able to rejoice in it because that's all good. Now you appreciate what value is. Until that, it's not enough. It's beneath your dignity. In terms of, I think what I deserve more than this. Once you negate yourself, prostration, now now whatever you have, you're able to be satisfied. And this is the whole concept of Ezo Osher Samech Mechelko. Who is the wealthy person? You're satisfied with a lot. That what you have, God given, you're satisfied. But I'm not satisfied. What's the problem? The problem is the ego. You have to negate yourself. Now, once it said, we find Eliezer was sent by Abraham to find a wife for Yitzchak. After he realizes it's happening, it says, Vayikar Orzo, he bent himself down and he prostrated himself to give thanks to Hashem. So Rashi over there cites Chazal. From here we learn that when a person has merits something positive, you have to say thank you. You have to give thanks to Hashem. Because it says he gets thanks to Hashem and he bowed. If I give you $1 million check, do I need to give me a pasuk to tell me you have to teach you to say thank you? It's obvious. I mean, here you succeeded in your mission. You found a woman who's appropriate to be the future matriarch. And now you realize it. He bows. From here we see that you're supposed to say thank you. You say thank you without prostrating yourself. You know what the answer is? Eliezer understood that unless he negates himself, he cannot have a full appreciation of what God did for him. That you're a full beneficiary, that everything that happened was orchestrated by God. You have nothing to do with it. But how do you understand that? Eliezer is Eliezer Eved Avram. He's a man who runs Avram's fortune. He runs companies which are worth fortunes. He's Avram's partner in everything he does. But when you go and you prostrate yourself and you negate yourself, who are you? I'm nothing. Therefore, I owe everything to Hashem. My involvement, my initiative means nothing. It's all you, it's not me. From here we see you have to say thank you. But how do you say thank you? By doing that physical act of negation, now the thank you is a true thank you. Same thing here. After you bring the Bikurim, it's an expression of appreciation, and you make the declaration, you don't leave out a detail, but to really make a difference that you should be able to fully internalize it, and you say it out loud, you must prostrate. And after you prostrate yourself, now you rejoice, all that God gives you, everything all of a sudden takes on a whole different understanding. This is good.